All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Kite. I'm a project manager at Spencer Vernoche. I'm hosting tonight's event on behalf of our founder, Chris Beal. He is at home welcoming his third child. So congratulations to Chris and his family. The plan tonight is we will have a quick panel discussion followed with a Q&A. I'm honored to introduce our amazing panel for tonight's discussion, starting with Nate Van Wee, Service Group Manager at CNS, Matt Baisley, Oneida County Public Works Commissioner, and last but not least, Mr. Steve Aiello of Core Development. The first question is, how do you ensure effective communication and collaboration among project stakeholders during projects in CNY? Steve.
Sure. Well, communication with all the stakeholders is incredibly important. In our business, the stakeholders, the critical stakeholders are the tenants, whether it's the retailers or an office tenant that we're developing or managing a property for, and then the lenders, the equity investors, the community in certain instances when we're building apartment buildings, and then also the government entities on more complex projects. And I think as a project is developed and we're from pre-development all the way through to completion and asset management, everybody needs to stay involved and in the loop, especially the investors in the project too. So starting with construction, when we're in construction with a new project, we have weekly meetings with everyone involved, including the lenders, their inspectors, the general contractor, architects, and commonly government folks as well. And then once the project is built and stabilized, pretty much regular communication and reporting to lenders and the investors in the project, because the investors want to know what their return is going to be and that the project's performing as expected, and the lenders want to make sure that their debt service is covered. So communication throughout the whole process, from construction to managing the property, is absolutely essential.
So as you probably hear, it's a reoccurring theme tonight. Communication is one of the most important things of any project going forward, and especially for larger projects, is really setting expectations with the end user, with the vendors, with the contractors, and everybody involved to make sure everybody's aware of what's expected of them and what the final result is, what the goal is. So really communication and really setting those expectations and milestones and everything along the line to make sure everybody's aware of what the other hand's doing.
Communication is obviously critical to the success of any project, but I'll go in a little different direction. I think the foundation of communication is all about respect, authenticity, and then accountability. As young professionals, I think you have to be authentic when you're talking to project stakeholders, show a genuine curiosity for their input, and recognize that at any level of the project team, people can provide valuable contributions, and then following up on that genuine curiosity that you have. And I just promote the trades as a lot of degreed professionals probably in the room here. The carpenter foreman who's been framing walls for 25, 30 years probably has more experience than anyone on the project site. And so when you run into issues, listening to those tradespeople on the solutions on how to do things faster, I think is vitally important if you want to have good communication throughout a project.
Okay, next up is how do you see technology shaping the future of construction and property development practices in CNY? And what innovations do you anticipate will have the greatest impact?
This is a big one. There's a lot going on here. But I think in terms of construction, new construction methods that we're at least exploring, costs are high right now. I think everybody knows that. We're looking at new, more creative types of construction, mass timber, modular in certain instances. I think that building materials are evolving and changing. And I think, as we move forward, we're going to see new innovative materials, which also kind of, to my next point on energy efficiency technologies for buildings, very important. I think that there's a lot of new technology out there that's just getting more efficient. District geothermal, solar, different types of utility systems for buildings that we're trying to utilize. And on top of that, there's a lot of tax credits and subsidies available for that as well. And one that's some people think is kind of far out there, but it's not really, is artificial intelligence. I think in the finance world, underwriting certain deals, kind of getting a little bit more accurate. But even in terms like leasing, we have a retail portfolio, and there's already software out there right now that is becoming standard. Placer AI, for example. Basically, what this software does is it aggregates everyone's cell phone data, and we can track who goes in and out of stores when. Don't worry, we don't know your names or anything. And we can actually put heat maps on every one of our shopping centers, see how people flow in and out of certain stores, what the peak hours are, and what stores they're going to next, and aggregate all this data together. And it's becoming so mainstream is that when we're negotiating new deals with, let's say, Target or some of the bigger retailers, this is part of the lease negotiation, like in a letter of intent, they actually want to see this data, or they already have it and say, look, no, I don't want to be next to Joann Fabrics, I want to be next to Kohl's, and this is why. And this also, so it's very granular at this level, and it's now part of everyday negotiations with retail leases.
I think, building on that with technology and artificial intelligence, it's going to help us get more reliable data prior to construction starting. Previously, a lot of things you don't know until you start digging up the property or demoing out and finding things that change the whole project or impact the schedule. There's more new technology coming out, allowing us to see what's underground, allowing us to see what's, inside the walls, everything else. So it's allowing us to get more accurate drawings going into projects. It's allowing us to increase our communication with different entities from on-site to off-site, and really transferring data back and forth faster, allowing us to give better intel to the guys on the ground and in the office. So I think it's going to help make the whole process more efficient and allow us to keep things moving.
To build on that, the lack of productivity in the construction industry is like a $1.5 billion problem annually. So it is huge dollars, and everything that these guys have mentioned is all about trying to find ways to increase productivity. Back to the first point, communication, and tools that help with communication, like online collaborative software, AI. You're already starting to see those make their way into the marketplace. Wearable technology is going to start to become huge. So putting sensors on craft people in hard hats so that they can track movements and really start to refine that. That's what manufacturing has done for a long time. That study has not made its way into construction. So the only other one I would add, in addition to modular, would be 3D printing. Overseas, actually in Texas, not overseas, there's a project going on right now where they're trying to 3D print an entire neighborhood. So it's obviously very ground level, and there's significant issues with it, but I do think you will start to see that come to the forefront here as we move forward.
Okay. Can you discuss any initiatives or efforts aimed at addressing affordable housing and infrastructure needs in CNY?
So affordable housing is absolutely essential to creating sustainable and equitable neighborhoods long term. A lot of for-profit developers don't necessarily are incentivized to develop affordable housing projects because the profit doesn't come from the cash flow. Profit comes from the initial development fee and then the management of the properties. But in order to create communities that are sustainable, you don't want to necessarily isolate different types of populations. So there is a trend right now where for-profit developers such as ourselves are partnering with nonprofit developers or service agencies to develop affordable housing. And there's a lot of subsidies and tax credits available, largely through the state and the federal government. Most of the federal government incentives pass through to the state, so that's a little bit of a, that's your gateway into a lot of the, the financial incentives. But locally, there have been some good initiatives that are very positive. Onondaga County recently created the OCHIPS program for all types of housing. It's about $250,000 per project, up to. It's a small amount in the capital stack, but it helps leverage other state and federal resources. The County Industrial Development Authority just implemented the new uniform tax exemption policy to help incentivize mixed income and affordable housing projects. I think that there's been a lot of misconception of what that actually does, but it's absolutely necessary to help make some of these projects pencil. The City of Syracuse just passed legislation for the City of Syracuse Municipal Housing Trust Fund Corporation, which will be a very good financial tool once it stands on its own for developers to access for new capital for the capital stack. It has some seed money from the state right now. But once that gets established, it's a very common tool in the affordable housing industry. I think those are all positive. I think the biggest challenge with affordable housing is that the state and federal low-income housing tax credits are geared towards 100% affordable projects that are 60% area median income or below. And I think there's a missing component here is what we call workforce housing, which is 80 to 1, technical definition is 80 to 120 area median income. And the projects on their own don't necessarily pencil right now. And there's not a lot of programs that don't involve tax credits that would, help incentivize that type of development. So I still think that there's some work there. But mixed income and combining market rate with this type of income restricted housing, I think in the long run has a much more beneficial impact on the communities. And I think that didn't happen from the 1940s up until the early 2000s, which is why we're seeing some neighborhoods in tougher shape than others today. So I think the more you can integrate all types of housing and affordable housing into these larger scale developments, they'll be much more productive communities.
And that covers a lot of it there, but just well said, yes. And from the government side, I think just again, the government-private partnerships really drive this, and hearing the feedback and everything else from the government side to adjust programs and try to meet the need of the constituents and the taxpayers within those municipalities, I think is really what's going to drive this forward. I mean, there's a lot of programs and initiatives to keep it going, and as we are able to develop these different sites, it just increases the tax base and allows more tax money to come in and provide more of these housings, and it's really just a cycle that'll help develop our area and help keep it strong.
I'm not going to add anything to that, so go ahead.
Fair enough. Okay, this one's also kind of aimed at Steve a little bit. What factors do you consider when identifying potential development opportunities in CNY?
Ooh, that's loaded.
Give us the secrets.
Well, I think it depends on the type of development. If we're developing, a building for a specific client, they usually have, know where they need to be or know locally where we need to be, and we're the site selector, so we have to go find the site that makes the most sense, and we'll dig into the history of the property, any environmental issues, wetland issues, local zoning. Local zoning and what the restrictions are, politically, what we think the pushback could potentially be and how that can be mitigated. When we're talking about our larger apartment building projects or other mixed-use developments across the state, we initially start, we do a very in-depth market due diligence, look at all the economic development activities that are going on, look at job growth, population trends, demographics. Once we're comfortable that this is a market that we want to be in, or it's a market that we can develop something and draw commercial tenants to and maybe do housing at the same time, then we actually outsource a market feasibility study, usually to a third-party market researcher that usually gives us even more detailed certified backup information. And then, given the pre-development costs of the certain sites or that municipality, sometimes on the pre-development, pre-construction costs and getting something approved, certain municipalities are tougher than others, which tougher they are, the higher your legal costs are. So, we factor all that in before we commit to a project. It's all part of our upfront pre-development costs, and then we'll run a back-of-the-napkin financial model and pro forma, with some rough numbers, rough concepts, and then make the final decision whether it's worth moving forward or not.
So from the public sector, it's a little, more aimed at impact of the most impact of our base, of our constituents. We're looking at which sites have, most access to, so the most members of our community can, access it from sites for DMVs or, public transportation or anything along those lines. And obviously, there's also certain aspects where we're looking for, areas that might need a little assist in getting developed, where the return for the private sector might not be there right away, but creating a shovel-ready site like Oneida County did with Wolf Speed and Marcy, having that ready for them and getting them there, and it's started that kind of process, and that's kind of what we're looking for, and making sure we kind of use the taxpayers' dollar wisely and efficiently and have the most impact on the community.
I think whether it's a development project or really any project, the who is playing a bigger impact. Steve was polite in the way that I think he said that. But there's a ton of work out there right now, and there's a ton of opportunity out there right now. And so if you are on the owner's side of things, right, evaluating how you can be easier to work with is a big issue that people are looking at, right? We don't have to pursue every project that's out there because there's so much going on. So we can pick the clients and the teams that we want to work with, and the clients and the teams that we don't want to work with, we can just let fall to somebody else. So the who, I think, is playing a bigger impact and is gonna become more critical, even into the future with all the opportunity that's coming.
All right. How do you navigate labor shortages and workforce challenges in the construction industry within CNY?
So don't really have an answer for this one, but this is this is a big concern of ours, particularly with some of the construction projects and development projects that we have planned for the area. There already is a labor shortage, workforce shortage, and I think there's with all the major economic development announcements, 81 under construction, Micron, all the suppliers for the for those larger industrial manufacturers, all the other housing and other hotels that other developers are planning for the area. I think there's going to be a significant shortage. There are some initiatives out there. I know OCC is working hard, investing money into workforce training. Center State CEO is working on workforce development. The state just announced that Central New York is going to be a workforce training hub. I think in the state budget this year, there's $200 million for that, and I think the Central New York is going to get about 80 of that. So I think that there's initiatives in place. I think that we really need to help create pathways, for people in certain trades, but not just to go into those trades, but also to be able to, move around too and develop different skill sets. I think that the next few years are going to be critical. I know, talked to our good friends in Boise, Idaho, where Micron's already there in a year and a half ahead of us, and it's a huge issue.
Yes, that's it's obviously a big issue all around the country, and it is something I think, communication, when there's issues that come up and when there's shortages or, anything that might impact the schedule, to bring that up and, talk with the other partners in it, see how maybe to get around, how to supplement here or there on different projects. The other thing is obviously the future development. We actually just left today. We had a career fair with the local trades in our county at our DPW garage, and trying to get out there to show what options there are for the younger generation and really get them interested in different careers, whether it's as an operator or in trades or whatever that might be. It really is important for us to kind of show the options that might be available to people, and that's really kind of, I think, the biggest issue right now.
So I'll take it from two different angles here. On the technical side, to all of our design friends who might be in the audience, you have to understand that time is money. And so when trades show up on a job site, they need to be able to produce. And if they don't have the information, or if the information isn't clear, or they're standing around waiting for information, that costs people money. And if you want labor to stay on your project, you need to remove as many of those obstacles as you can, feed them information quickly, and let them produce. Because of the labor shortage, there's an extreme demand, and they can't afford to sit around and wait for teams to make decisions. So just keep that in mind as you get engaged with projects. And the other one, I just echo what Matt said. On the long term, we have to find a way to get the next generation interested in the trades. And we're all obviously here tonight because we're passionate about the construction industry in Central New York. And so that onus falls on all of us to get out to events like the Syracuse Builders Exchange puts on a construction career day at the state fairgrounds every year. And so as a professional, going to the firm that you work with and saying, hey, we may be atypical, but let's get a booth there as part of that event and help promote that. The other one is the New York State Fairgrounds. As part of the fair, there's a STEM exhibit center. So talk to your employers about getting a booth there for a couple days, or joining that initiative, so that when young people come through the fair, they see young professionals at those booths and are excited about the career opportunities in the field.
Have there been any recent trends or shifts in demand for commercial versus residential properties in the region?
Yes. I think, the biggest demand for is housing right now. I'll go through a couple different subsectors. Housing, there's a housing shortage. The current housing stock is aging, and it's in certain instances becoming too costly to repair. We're anticipated to have a growing population with all of our, economic development projects that we've just been discussing. Right now, with current data, they're anticipating the current projected trends of population growth. Central New York will need to build 2,500 new units of housing a year for the next 10 years. That's everything from multifamily units, duplexes, to single-family homes. Last year, there was about 550 construction starts for that entire area, entire Central New York region that the study was based, and that includes both apartments and single-family homes. So I think housing, all types of housing, affordable housing, as we discussed, market rate, single-family homes, the demand is there. Construction costs are high, a little bit of a delta there, but not a little bit of a delta, a huge delta. I think, but retail has changed too. In terms of retail, there's going to be more demand for retail. I think you have some older retail, some strip centers that, not really high quality product locally. I think it's very cost prohibitive for new retailers to come in and try to build something brand new. So retail, new property development has slowed down. And right now, the current trend is that retailers are trying to backfill existing spaces. I'm sure everyone heard the news that Bed Bath & Beyond went out of business. That was any of those locations were a fantastic space to backfill with someone that wanted to enter the market or that shopping center. I think once that vacancy, and I'm talking about open air shopping centers, malls are a different story. I think once that space fills up, you will see some smaller, some more select, very select new retail development. Office, I don't think anyone's building spec office right now. The vacancy is just so high. The average rents that people can get in existing vacancy right now is low. It just doesn't pencil out unless there's a specific tenant that says, "Look, we're going to invest X into this building. We want to have a new building. We don't care. We just want to move here. It'll be a build to suit." That's fine. I think you'll see a little bit of that. I think you're absolutely going to see industrial, given all the suppliers that are going to follow all these economic development projects. Again, probably not a lot of spec development, which means build and hope to lease. And then hotels, it's interesting because pre-COVID, this market was actually saturated with hotel keys. And now that the Sheraton's closing, Crown Plaza's closing, Skylar's closing, Syracuse wants to be competitive for an NCAA championship. Now the big concern is there's not enough hotel rooms. So hotels right now are actually making an aggressive comeback, for new development. It's just interesting because after COVID, the banks and the investors are still very hesitant because it was a tough time for anyone in the hotel world during that period of time.
Not much to add to that from the public sector, but I think you covered it pretty well.
I'd agree.
What opportunities do you foresee in the future for growth in CNY?
Just kind of touched on a lot of like the actual property types of development, so I'll kind of take it a different direction. I think with more people moving to the area, more younger professionals staying here, I think that there's absolutely the opportunity to kind of create new type of more experiential environments. I mean, people go to Tampa and you have the Armature Works. It's a big mixed-use development, but it's more about these, the social impact and the programming. You have, the aquarium coming to Syracuse. I know that was an issue, but I think it's a good thing for the community. I think that creating more places where people our generation want to be and hang out and bring their families, on top of just the normal standard commercial real estate subsectors is something that there's absolutely room to do and grow businesses like that here, because people want to do stuff, and there hasn't been there's been a little new, a little bit new places like that in town over the last few years, but there's absolutely room for that to grow.
And I'm just going to echo that. I think really it's the activity-centered development. Oneida County is really, Oneida County worked with the Audit Authority and the Utica Comets to build a Nexus Center in Utica. And within a year of opening, we just hosted an international women's hockey tournament that brought a lot of eyes to the area, a lot of people, and it just, things like that'll bring more people looking at our, in central New York area and possibly looking to move here and spending their money here and everything else. So those are things that really I think will be big for not only us who live here and want to do things with our families, but also for bringing in people from outside the area to help our industries.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's tremendous opportunity. I think we can create sort of whatever we want. The wealth transfer from the baby boomers to this generation hasn't fully taken place yet. It's started, but that is going to skip Gen X and move into the millennials who so you're gonna have tremendous power to be able to sort of define what you want Central New York to look like once that wealth transfer takes place. So I think the future could be whatever we want it to be, and based on all the development that's coming, it's really limitless on what we want to make it.
Okay, this is the closing question. Afterwards, we will have Q&A open to the crowd. What advice would you give to aspiring professionals or entrepreneurs who are looking to enter the industry or have just began their career in CNY?
So, for anyone wanting to enter the development industry, I would say, first, try to meet everyone that you can, from lenders to investors to tenants to, every business owner, because it all is part of the real estate ecosystem. Second, is really practice on financial modeling and running commercial real estate pro formas, and because that is the backbone of any new project. From every component of a commercial real estate project falls back on the financing and how the financial model works. So I think that's absolutely critical, is having those skills. And then third is there's some really interesting trade organizations that have incredible members, and the level of expertise and information in these organizations is unbelievable. One, if you're interested in retail development, is what used to be called International Council of Shopping Centers. It's now Innovative Commerce Serving Communities, because they're trying to promote more mixed-use urban centers. So it's kind of changing as an organization. But my favorite is the Urban Land Institute. Has people from every field in the development industry, from construction to architects, to public sector, government, developers. It's really fascinating, some of the events and folks that participate in that organization.
I'd say get involved in your, associations and different groups, like this, or specific to your field, and learning as much as you can from people who've been doing it for a long time, and communicating and talking to other people in your field and other aspects of it, because the problems you're facing are most likely not new. They're not specific, in a general sense, but it's important to do that, and also make sure you're asking questions. there's, looking back in my past here, there's times where I didn't ask questions because I thought it's something I should have known, and I just kind of, went on. And, people want to help you learn from the people who are there. The more you know about what you do, what the people across from you do, and everything else makes you more valuable. I mean, the designers I've seen that have had the most impact are the ones that know what the carpenters are doing. They know what the steam fitters are doing, and they know that, and they're able to design it to make it work and keep the project as efficient as possible.
Yeah, I would say this industry can absolutely eat you up if you let it. It can be very intense and all-consuming, and so I think it's important to play the long game. There's going to be tremendous opportunity. We've talked about it for the last 30 minutes that's coming. The race for talent is going to be fierce. You're going to have real opportunities to jump from firm to firm to firm and probably make some, real crazy money by doing that. But as quickly as those firms come into town to make that, they're also going to move on, and then you're going to be, left in the community. So, find teammates that you want to work with long-term, find firms that give you opportunity, or municipal, agencies that continuously give you opportunity and let you grow sort of organically and support you. That's one. Two, this is an incredibly small industry. So CNS has worked with CORE and with Oneida County longer than any three of us individuals have been at any of those entities. And so if you burn bridges and don't treat people fairly or with respect, you're going to get cut out of opportunities quickly. I said the who is becoming more important. Not to put Matt on the spot, but when you're reviewing proposals that are submitted by firms as a government entity, and you recognize individuals who you've been burned by in the past, it's easy to quickly find the flaws in that proposal and give them a lower score, and the next thing you know, they're on to the next one. So, and it's small. So make sure that you treat people fairly and with respect. And then the last I would just say is remember that you want this to be a career. And ideally, we're going to do this for 25 to 40 years. And while we all want to get to the top as quickly as we can, there's real value in letting the process play out, in growing organically and learning along the way. So let that process take its course, and no doubt we'll all be at the top as soon as we can.
All right, that was a lot of information, but incredibly insightful. Could we get a round of applause for our panelists? So does anybody have a question they would like one of these three gentlemen to answer?
Thank you so much to all the panelists. My name is Raymond. I live here in Syracuse proper. And this has been very insightful. I'm completely new to the world of construction and property development. And my question is, what would you all say are some of the biggest factors contributing to the housing shortage here in the CNY region? And what will it take for us to be able to ramp up residential development here in this area?
Yeah, I think it's cyclical, right? I'll create a little time here for Steve to formulate a response, but it's right. Industry moved south, right? And so when industry left, so did all the people, right? We have tremendous access to water, which will, when you talk about chip fabrication and Micron and everything that's coming along with that, water is going to be the resource that's going to create opportunity for New York State and really the Northeast as we move forward. It's, and so if you're looking for development opportunities, you should follow single-family home starts, which I think Steve referenced earlier. And if historically you look at those trends over the last 20 years, they've been in the southeast, a little bit in the southwest, and they're starting to pick up back in the northeast. So, it's water that's going to create that opportunity for us.
And I think part of it is also, water has also been the opposite side of it too, with different flooding issues that we've had. I know Atlantic County has been hit hard with flooding issues, which have, made it less area that we were able to develop on because of those issues. So that's something there. And as Nate alluded to before, with the transfer of wealth from the baby boomer generation, luckily our families are living longer and everything else, but that also comes with the transfer of wealth and property is not happening at the same rate it used to. So that's something that takes time to catch up to. And that's something that we're seeing kind of all over.
It's a great question. Anybody else?
Hi, thanks for being here. I'm Trevor Bacon. I'm a commercial lender here in the Central New York region. Given the material costs are high, rates are high, and there's not a lot of low-income housing, I'm surprised municipalities and developers aren't looking at mobile home communities as an alternative for growth in that area. Any particular reason why?
Yeah, I think with mobile home development is a huge thing, especially not locally. I think a lot of that locally comes down to zoning restrictions. I think there is potential opportunity in certain areas in Central New York because it's a quicker and easier and more financeable method to get housing units online. But if you look at most of the towns in Onondaga County, they absolutely restrict mobile home development. Anything you see around here, it right now is grandfathered in or from a long time ago.
I think part of it also plays into the infrastructure that goes into it, because obviously mobile homes are more spread out, and as you get into more rural communities, there's less city sewer and city water, so then you go into septic systems and everything else that might be tougher to do. So that's I think part of it. Obviously building up in cities is the infrastructure's there to support that, and the more people in those areas, you need to have that infrastructure for utilities and everything that goes along with that.
Anyone else?
Hi, thank you for being here tonight. My name is Emily. I live in Westvale and I work for Francis House, so nowhere close to what you guys do. My question though has to do, sorry Matt, but more with Onondaga County and Plan On, and how one of the pushes for Onondaga County is to create more community spaces. So something like Salt City Market. So what are you guys looking for as far as spaces to create those type of community centers for different towns and municipalities? And then I guess a kind of civic engagement question, what can we do as citizens not in this field to propose these areas or things that we want to see?
Talk to the commercial lender that's three rows behind you, and get Steve some money, and then you'll be able to take on whatever you want.
I think also engaging with your local planning department. They're always collecting that information, and they're collecting the information that helps the developer and lenders provide that for them. So if they, if there's certain opportunities that you might see, talk to your local planning department or other entities of government, and they're always looking for input.
Thank you once again to our panelists for your valuable insights, and a special thanks to CNS Companies and Core Development for sponsoring tonight's event. I'd also like to extend our gratitude to the owners of the Tap House, Randy, Sinu, and Kyle. They're somewhere back there. For providing such a fantastic venue and delicious charcuterie. That's a mouthful. Shout out to Travis Roller, CNS Companies, for helping me plan. Shout out to Rob Rivera, 123 Imaging. I encourage everyone to stick around, grab a drink, get some food, and mingle. Thank you once again. My name is Sam Kite. Thanks, everybody.
Shout out to Sam for putting it on.